Hi, my name is Brandy Trigo. I am a registered nurse and a health and wellness mentor. And welcome to the second week in my obesity series. Today is June 11th, 2014. And this one is called Is Obesity Inherited? It is the classic nature versus nurture debate, genetics versus environment. Obesity runs in families. Children who are overweight tend to have overweight siblings. Obese children are 200 to 400% more likely to become obese adults than their non-obese peers. Families also tend to eat the same foods and have similar attitudes about when and how much to eat. We're going to talk about Dr. Albert Stunkard. He was a psychiatrist born in 1922, passed away in 2014. He was the author of a book called The Pain of Obesity. He is one of the first medical professionals to condemn the stigmatization of overweight people. He is also the one who did the two studies that we will reference here. The 1986 Danish study, and that is 540 adult adoptees were studied. The study found that there was no relationship between the weight of the adoptees and their adoptive parents. The study also found that there was a strong correlation between the weight of the adoptees and their biological parents. The 1991 fraternal twins study showed that they were studied fraternal twins that were raised in the same and different environments. This study found a 70% familial tendency for obesity. However, obesity rose dramatically in a single generation. Genes adapt in humans to environment, but not in a single generation. Therefore, obesity results from a combination of genetics and environment. Obesity runs in families. Obesity is significantly familial. Obese children often have obese siblings. Obese children often become obese adults. Obese adults eventually have obese children, and the cycle is continuous. Obesity can run in families, but it is not necessarily due to genetics alone. There are two main factors that contribute to this. There is evidence that genetic factors can influence a person's susceptibility to obesity. If there is a history of obesity in your close family, then the answer is yes, obesity does run in families. However, it's essential to note that genetics are just one piece of the puzzle. While genetics play a significant role, habits and environment also significantly impact whether someone becomes overweight. Lifestyle choices, dietary habits, physical activity levels, and the overall environment in which a person lives all contribute to obesity, since family members share similar eating patterns, sedentary behaviors, have access to unhealthy foods. It can lead to a higher prevalence of obesity within the family. Research has shown that having an overweight family increases the likelihood of somebody becoming overweight. So while genetics set the stage, lifestyle choices and environmental factors can also play a crucial role in determining whether obesity manifests. So let's take a look at what impact removing genetics from the equation has on environmental factors. We are going to take a look at Dr. Albert Stunkard. Dr. Stunkard made many discoveries in his career. He was the first to identify binge eating as a medical disorder, to link obesity to socioeconomic factors, and the first scientist to show why so many obese people have about as much control over their body weight as they do over their parentage. He was also one of the first medical professionals to condemn the stigmatization of overweight people. Dr. Stunkard's early work ignited an explosion of interest in the study of eating-related problems. Doctors viewed obesity as a psychological condition, describing it as a disorder of the will, and neither physicians nor researchers were immune to prejudices that cast overweight people as the chief cause of their own problems. Excuse me. Dr. Stunkard's early work in the 1950s and 60s explored some of the conventional wisdom about obesity and found that obese people were no more or less negative than people of normal weight. But they tended to be less well off, less physically active, more efficient at converting calories to fat, and more depressed. But that most obese people were no more different than non-obese people. Obesity attracted too much fault finding, he said. Fat people suffered from social stigma and self-loathing, and he hoped his research would bring some rationality to the problem. In his 1980 book, The Pain of Obesity, Dr. Stunkard cited a famous 1960s survey in which children were asked to pick people they would like to be friends with from a pile of pictures of other children. Some of the pictures were disabled children, some were not overweight, and some were overweight. The children invariably picked the fat child last. The overweight stigma, Dr. Stunkard wrote, was the last acceptable form of prejudice. We are going to look at the 1986 Danish study. Dr. Albert Stunkard, a renowned psychiatrist and pioneer of eating disorder research, proved that some people are genetically predisposed to getting fat. One of Dr. Stunkard's most important discoveries emerged from a pair of studies, one in 1986 and another in 1991. The first, based on a study of 540 adults adopted at birth in Denmark, where health records are kept throughout the lives of all adoptees and their biological parents, showed that the body weight of adoptees closely resembled that of their biological parents and hardly at all to that of their adoptive parents. The environmental factors and human behaviors like dietary habits or lack of exercise provided by the adoptive parents played virtually no role towards the tendency for obesity. Dr. Stunkard examined the genetic factors and the family environment to human weight. Of these 540 adult Danish adoptees with a mean age of 42.2 years. They were divided into 4 weight classes: thin, median weight, overweight, and obese. There was a strong relation between the weight class of the adoptees and the BMI of their biological parents. There was no relation between the weight class of the adoptees and the BMI of their adoptive parents. Cumulative distributions of the BMI of parents showed similar results. The relation between biological parents and adoptees was not confined to the obesity weight class, but was present across the whole range of body weight classes. It concluded that genetic influences have an important role in determining human weight in adults, whereas the family environment alone had no apparent effect. In his 1991 fraternal twin study, Dr. Stunkard's second study, also in Denmark, established conclusively that what the first study had strongly suggested, that genes play a major role in body weight. By comparing the body weight history of twins, some adopted and some not. Whether raised together or apart, each twin's body mass index, the weight to height ratio calculation, was nearly identical. the study found. Dr. Stunkard's findings were a landmark of obesity studies, therefore determining that 70% of your tendency to gain weight is determined by your parentage. This study also acknowledges that genetics alone cannot account for the huge increases in obesity seen around the world. Twin studies, especially those involving discordant twins, which are twins that show a significant difference in size and weight at birth, have been instrumental in unraveling the complex web of obesity. They highlight the delicate dance between our genes and the choices we make. This makes us remember that understanding obesity is both nature, or our genetics, and nurture, our lifestyle. And each twin's journey provides a unique perspective on this multifaceted condition. We're just gonna go into a few obesity facts here. The term obesity is a person whose BMI is greater than 30. And that is broken down into 3 more classes of obesity. Class 1 is a BMI of 30 to 34.9. Class 2 is a BMI of 35 to 39.9. Class 3 is a BMI greater than 40. In the 1950s, only 6% of Americans were obese. By the 1970s, 25%. And in 2014, when Dr. Stunkard passed away, 35% of Americans were obese. Today, 41.9% of Americans are obese. And the climb is just staggering. We need to put a stop to this. And so that is why I'm here to educate everybody on different things that cause obesity and how to prevent or reverse it. Next week, we are going to talk about, is a calorie just a calorie? We will discuss the role of calories and hormones in our weight and the vicious cycle of dieting. I hope to see you all next week, and I appreciate you taking the time to learn a little bit more about everything that there is to know, or that research that I've found about obesity. Thanks, and have a great rest of your week.